Hey guys, welcome back to the Cinema Asylum podcast. This is just going to be a special movie review, and this is going to be for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This just came out this weekend, and yeah, I believe only the three of us have seen the movie so
Yeah,
far.
so far, yeah.
Okay. When did you see it?
And I went to go see it yesterday on Saturday.
Oh, nice. Yeah, me and Dylan went to go see it at like 9 o'clock last night.
Yeah.
Which and he was wearing, and if you can't really see him that well,
Here's my
he
gloves.
is actually wearing his Ghostbusters uniform.
Of course I would. Why wouldn't I?
Where do you?
And
So,
his outfit is awesome.
is there
Oh,
a
you
place?
better be.
Is there a place where you can get your own custom suits?
There are a few places. This is the proper, so it's the incorrect fabric. But this is the proper suit. You can get it from their site and on Amazon. They run for like $200. But if anybody's looking to get their own jumpsuit, I would check out gbfans.com. They have a shop there where you can buy proton pack parts, trap parts, all that. In addition to, you can buy custom jumpsuits that range from like $60 to $90, I think, depending on if you need a tall size or not. I'm planning on upgrading to one of those.
Okay.
But there's a lot of fan creators out there that make these really killer patches.
Nice.
Maybe we'll put like the description to the stuff that I bought in the description for this video, because I think that they deserve a lot more love. Just the amount of detail that people have put into it. The community for Ghostbusters is amazing when it comes to
Oh,
cosplay.
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, they're phenomenal.
Yeah. So before we get into, because this is going to be mostly a spoiler talk about Frozen Empire, so we're going to be talking about the plot and all the events that happen in the film. So if you have not seen Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, you might want to click off this video at a certain point and then go see the movie, form your
Yes.
own opinion, and then and then come back and you can hear our thoughts. But real quick before we get into spoilers, let's talk about our experience with the Ghostbusters franchise and what we thought of the last movie. Let's start with Dylan.
Okay. So I've always liked always liked Ghostbusters.
Same
Sorry.
Same thing. Ghostbusters Star.
It's pretty close. To be fair, Return ended a year before.
Yeah.
I've always liked Ghostbusters. I didn't really get into it until a previous relationship. That's when my love for it grew exponentially. I've seen, God, I've seen the original 200s of times. Afterlife, I'm tens of times into rewatching that. Same for the 2016 one. I just have a general love for the franchise. I've seen Real Ghostbusters. I love Extreme Ghostbusters. I've read all the IDW comics. I would say that I know it pretty well, not as well as a lot of other people do, because
Yeah.
man, there are people that know every single minute detail.
Yep.
And it blows me away.
Jonathan.
I like that you call me Jonathan. That's a very cool name. Thank you for that. So yeah, I started watching the original Ghostbusters. I would probably say a couple years ago. I think when Afterlife was about to come out, and I really enjoyed the first one. But then I got to watch Afterlife with Dylan and the rest of my buddies, and I loved every moment of that movie. It was funny. It was fun. The cast was great. The nostalgia of the original 80s classic was absolutely perfect. It was a great welcome back to the franchise, and I was really excited to check out Frozen Empire and to see if the sequel can hopefully live up to the expectations. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I've been a Ghostbusters fan since I think I watched the original when I was like 4. So I've watched the original at a very young age, and originally the movie scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I really didn't, when you're that young and you're watching a movie like that, you don't really know, or you don't really gauge the fact that it's supposed to be mainly a comedy.
Yeah.
And I think that's how effective some of the scares in the original movie are. Like, the opening part with the library ghost, and the fact that you don't even see the ghost until a few scenes later.
Yeah.
And they the first film is like the perfect blend of horror and comedy in a way that so few movies like accomplish in that sense, because the ghosts are all well designed. They can be really scary and creepy. The dogs, in Ghostbusters scared the shit out of me. Those things, were really terrifying. But no, like when I got older and kept watching it over and over again, I picked up so much more on all the comedic bits, the extremely amazing chemistry between all four of the Ghostbuster cast. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd,
Ernie Hudson,
and
Harold Ramis.
Harold Ramis. Shit.
You're good. You're good.
No, it's just you sometimes forget that Harold Ramis hasn't, been a part of it for almost 10 years at this point.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Man, what a loss. So, yeah. Ghostbusters 2, I've never really been that huge a fan of. I still enjoy it to a certain extent, but it's certainly not nearly the level of greatness that the first one is. And did you guys see the 2016 one?
Yes.
I haven't
think
watched
of
it yet.
Like I said, I like the 2016 one. I feel like it gets shit on way more than it deserves. I don't think that it's as good as all the other ones that we've gotten. I think the only one where it could really pass would be Ghostbusters 2 for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's parts of it that I'm not a big fan of. I think it went a little too far at some times, and there are other times where they didn't draw it out enough.
Yep.
But I really like it, especially the extended edition. The extended edition is way better, in my opinion.
I didn't even know there was an extended version.
I don't think that you can. I don't think that the extended is streaming anywhere. But
Sony doesn't really have their own streaming service.
No.
Compared to like every other studio. Sony's like the only one that doesn't really have that.
Well, give it time.
Well,
give it time.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I liked it. I think, like I said, I think that I get shit on way too much. If you're not a fan of it, you at least like Holtzman. Holtzman was the shining star of that movie, and it's because she is a like. I'm not talking bad about Egon. Not saying that he's not a badass or anything, because he's badass in his own merit. But Holtzman is a conventional badass, on top of having that brilliance that Egon has.
Yep.
She's amazing, and honestly, she's at least the one character that I want to continue, if not everybody else from that.
Which actress played her again?
It was
because I have not seen the 2016 one, like not all the way through. And a few people have told me like it's a lot better than you think it would be.
Yes.
So that has given me pause to maybe check it out on my own. When it came out, I was hard against it, like most people were. And I mean, I don't feel like that's fair on like the actresses who were a part of it. It really does feel like it was a studio kind of movie where, the studio was mainly the ones that were behind the creation of it.
Yeah.
And Sony is still being stupid.
And it's friggin' Sony, so what can you really do about that? But
I just want to interject. Holtzman was played by Kate McKinnon, SNL alumni.
Yeah, Kate McKinnon.
Yeah.
Okay. She seemed like from the trailers, because the trailers were what really put me off from seeing it, because those trailers were god awful. But Kate McKinnon was the thing that got me most curious to check it out, because I like Kate McKinnon a lot.
It's worth the watch solely for her.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that everybody in it did a great job. Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones. I think they all did amazing. I know a lot of people didn't like Chris Hemsworth's character in it, because he's kind of really
bumbling.
He's a dumb blonde. He's the male archetype of it.
He's basically the Rick Moranis character.
Kind of
of that movie.
He's a lot of what he does in the movie is improv, and it works really well. One of the infamous scenes is I can't remember if it's in the trailer or not. But it's during his interview, and this isn't a spoiler. It's during his interview where at one point he goes to scratch his eye, but he goes through his glasses because they removed the lenses that way the camera's not reflected. And he wasn't supposed to do that. He forgot that he was wearing glasses. So Melissa McCarthy was like, "Oh, hold on. Can I ask why no lenses?" He's like, "Oh yeah, they just kept getting dirty, so I kind of just popped them out." And she's like, "Oh, okay."
Okay. I didn't know about that scene. That sounds funny.
Yeah, it's great. No, genuinely, there's a lot of really good moments in the 26 Ghostbusters movie. You just have to not have a bitch in your ear telling you it's a bad movie.
Yeah, I feel like that movie was like the main. That was like the kickoff point for where we're at with like this whole culture war on like online with almost every like YouTube personality talking about how Hollywood's gone woke and all that shit.
Yeah, Ghostbusters aren't women.
Yeah, I try to stay out of that as much as I can. I really do feel like that movie was the beginning of that of the time we were in. But yeah, I'll check it out at some point. It just I feel like the movie when it like was being marketed just gave me no reason like to see it.
Yeah.
Then Ghostbusters Afterlife came out, and it was basically I would call it the apology for Ghostbusters 2016, just because it was going back to the basics. It was going away from all that stuff. It was attempting its own new story, but still tying it in with the original by having it follow Egon's family lineage, and it's following these new characters. And I really enjoyed Afterlife a lot. I think it has a few problems, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the new characters it brought in, like Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon. I like the two of them a lot, and I really like McKenna Grace a lot. I think she's got a lot of talent.
Yeah, no, she killed it.
And of course, Finn Wolfhard too. So yeah, and it definitely set off on a new course with the franchise, and and it went back. And at the end of it, it clearly says we're going back to New York and all that. So we're going back to where we have that Ghostbusters feeling. So, and that's where this Frozen Empire kicks off. And just to give our non-spoiler thoughts on it before we go into spoilers, I was not really a fan of this of Frozen Empire. There were parts of it that I had a lot of fun with, and I think the cast seemed like they were having fun too. And a lot of the newcomers like Kumail Nanjiani, who I think is usually pretty funny in almost everything.
Yeah.
You have some. Who else were the newcomers? You have Patton Oswalt in here, who's a bit part in it. He's only in like one scene, but he's basically he's the part where
he's a linguist.
Is the exposition for what the villain is, and I think he also did great. My problem with the movie mainly lies in how it tries to do way too much, and I feel like it has Spider-Man 3 syndrome, where it just feels like it doesn't really have much focus on what the story is, where I feel like what they were trying to do was they were trying to explore, Kate, what's McKenna Grace, what's the character's name again?
Phoebe.
They were trying to explore Phoebe and her relationship with her mom and her new, almost semi-stepdad played by Paul Rudd, and that seemed like that was mainly what they're trying to do, and that would have been cool if there wasn't so much else going on with the movie, where it is also having to explore, the old Ghostbuster characters. It has to have, Dan Aykroyd having his subplot in the film. It has to have, Ernie Hudson doing his thing as well with, this new thing that's opened up for his character in the story. And and you also have to have, Finn Wolfhard doing his own thing. And it just felt like there was way too much, and I feel like more focus on Phoebe's storyline would have helped things a lot more, and it would have felt more satisfying. But I feel like, and it just more tying in with, maybe a more centralized theme with, the villain of the film. What's the villain's? Is it
Garaka.
Garaka?
Yeah.
I almost said Baraka. different
Close.
different storyline. But yeah, I feel like there are pieces in this movie that really do work, but together and how they're executed, it really does come off to me as muddled and unfocused. And I feel like some of the comedy didn't work as much for me in this one, and it's not necessarily to do with the actors. I think the actors do a good enough job in salvaging some of the weaker dialogue and some of the weaker jokes. But overall, it just felt like it really, where a lot of complaints with Afterlife were over relied on nostalgia and member berries, that kind of thing. Of, hey, remember this, with Stay Puffed and a lot of the iconography of Ghostbusters. I feel like that was way more apparent with Frozen Empire, and I do think it hindered the film a lot more than it helped. So yeah, overall, if I was to give a score on the movie, I would give it a 4.5 out of 10. Oh, I didn't hate this movie, but I didn't really enjoy it that much either. Moving on.
Go ahead.
My score is actually a lot higher than that. I actually really like this movie a lot more, but I completely understand the problems you have with this film, because I'm kind of with you there on the movie. There are some great moments in the film. I do think the comedy was really good, and the actors did a great job,
Yep.
and all that stuff. When you get to the ghost busting, when you get to the third act, that's when you get the satisfying conclusion. When you see the third act of seeing the villain that they're going up against, and seeing all the Ghostbusters together defeating the villain.
Yep.
That's pretty great. And Paul Rudd, as usual, is really funny in this movie.
I love Paul Rudd.
Yeah,
he was great.
Yeah, and Phoebe is great as usual. She is the upcoming star. She is just
Yes.
a wonderful, wonderful actress.
Yep.
So
She's good. She's a good singer too.
Yeah, no, 100%.
There are definitely lots of good things about this movie, and I had a really good time. But I do agree with you on a few certain things. I feel like the serious tone, for me, it threw me off.
Yeah.
I personally think it should have been a lot more comedic, honestly.
It's not that it's serious, because the original movies have their serious moments where things have to get more serious to draw you into what's going on.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a way to balance that without coming off as whiplash, where it goes from this really comedic moment between Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon, and all of a sudden you get a scene with Phoebe's character and this other character, and it didn't quite mesh together.
Yeah, I mean, I see what they were trying to do with the serious tone and a little bit of the comedic tone, but I just didn't think it meshed together that well. Which I think the biggest issue is probably because, at least for me, is the director. I'm not saying he did not do a good job. The directing that he did was really good, although the original director of Afterlife, I would have preferred for him.
Yeah, Jason Reitman.
Yeah, Jason Reitman did great. I'm not saying he did not do a good job. He did really good. But the reason why Jason Reitman's directing was fabulous in Afterlife, it was because of nostalgia, and it brings you back the good old vibes.
And also because, he's the son of the original director, Ivan Reitman. And, if anyone was to understand what Ivan Reitman did with, because he directed 2, right? Also,
Ivan, yeah,
okay, yeah. Because if anyone's gonna know or understand what Ivan Reitman was going for with the original 2, it was gonna be Jason Reitman. And Jason Reitman is a great director on his own as well.
Absolutely,
he's directed movies like Juno, and I think he also did Up in the Air. He's directed a lot of smaller movies, but movies that have a great balance of comedy and drama and serious moments.
Yeah.
And Gil the director of this one is Gil Keenan, who I believe was the director of, I think he did Monster House.
Yes.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and I think he also directed a movie I really didn't like, which was the 2015 Poltergeist remake, which I thought was horrible. But yeah, Gil Keenan, I think would have been I think would be a pretty solid choice. And overall, with the directing in this one, I just felt like it just didn't have that right balance that Afterlife did.
Yeah. Another issue I had with the film is the character of Podcast. Now, Podcast was a wonderful character in the first one.
Yeah.
He was funny, and when I see him on screen, it makes me laugh. And it was great to see him on screen, but the biggest issue, there was not enough of him.
Nope.
Not enough of Podcast, which, honestly, that really disappointed me, because I wanted to see him a lot more in this movie, but is it just me, or do I feel like he was hardly in the film?
Yeah, a lot of characters feel that way, where they have screen time, but they don't really have much going on. Like, they
so
don't really
weird.
contribute that much to what's
Well,
what's
I mean,
happening.
Podcast was fully part of Ray's storyline.
Yeah.
And like
I got that
Ray's
part.
storyline was more diminished in the movie. I think that's the reason why we feel that way, is because Podcast was really only part of that. He wasn't part of the grander thing. He at one point he only crossed over with Phoebe like once before the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And those two characters were very much like had such great chemistry in Afterlife.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. And one more biggest criticism, the New York mayor was absolutely stupid.
Oh,
well, it's because it was Walter Peck. It was dickless.
Walter Peck, I feel like I didn't really like Walter Peck's inclusion in this movie that much either.
No, he was such a douche in this
just kind of
because he was a douche in the first one.
The character is supposed to be a douche. I get that, but overall, it just felt like he was there just because he had to be there.
Yeah. What I don't understand is, hey, she literally did capture the ghost. You're going to criticize the child, and now you're going to bench her? She literally captured the ghost.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but it's Walter Peck.
I didn't like the way he was written at all.
He is essentially the J. Jonah Jameson of, like, the Ghostbusters.
Except J. Jonah Jameson was likable and he was funny.
Yeah. And in this one, he wasn't that funny to me in this one. So, or not to the level he was in the first two.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, you're fired. Like, what? Okay.
Did you have anything else to say about
it? Overall, I like the movie, although I love Afterlife a lot more, and I probably would say that I like the original Ghostbusters definitely a lot more. I haven't seen the other two, although I'm definitely planning to rewatch it because I love Afterlife so much. But I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. I liked the film, but I was a little bit disappointed.
Cool. Dyllan?
I'm kind of just going to give brief general thoughts because a lot of the points that I want to bring up,
spoilers.
Yeah, I just feel like I could do a deeper dive because I do want to defend this movie. I do understand the criticisms. I think the one criticism that I really agree about is I think it was podcast. Like I would have enjoyed more podcast content.
Absolutely.
He was a great character in the first one. It was a lot like watching Ray again, just a little younger, because Ray was always a child in those first two movies. He was always so full of wonder, and he was so like eager to see more. And podcast is the same kind of character. That's the reason why when they meet up in Afterlife, it's one of my favorite things. But partially because when they meet up in Afterlife, podcast is completely covered in marshmallow.
Yeah.
And a little piece of trivia about the first movie is when they were spraying all the shaving cream on Dan Aykroyd to cover him in marshmallow, basically. He's like, more. So they like kept covering him on, and eventually they had to be like, no, we can't see you if we had anything else. So when they meet up, podcast is the same exact way.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the fact that podcast was part of that storyline. I'm glad that he kind of stuck with that a little bit.
Yeah.
For that reason, those are like the same character in my mind. No, I really did like it. If I had to rank it, I think I give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
Hey, okay, cool.
I like I said, I do understand the criticisms about like the pacing. I understand how it focused a lot more on the family aspect of it. On Phoebe's struggle.
Yeah,
it did.
Concept. In the snow, it's freezing, and we're flying up against the ghost in the freezing cold. great concept.
Yeah,
I just
hope.
wish it was executed a little bit better.
Well, I hope that we get an extended edition because I do think that there are scenes that are missing from this movie, especially in the third
I
act.
did not think about that.
The editing, I feel like, was also a major problem because it feels like scenes in, a better movie, in my opinion, like the plot feels very unfocused because every scene, like especially in the first like half, like something will be set up and then another scene will be taking place with a different set of characters and they're doing their own thing. Then we got back to a different set of circumstances, and then in the next scene we go back to what was set up in that first part. It's stuff like that I feel like really dilutes the movie and makes it feel like it's unfocused because every scene it feels like doesn't really lead into each other. It just feels like we're just cutting all around, and it just feels like with a more focused like editing structure, I feel like this would have been maybe a lot smoother to watch.
I didn't think
and
about
maybe
that.
maybe there is a lot that's on the cutting room floor, and maybe there will be.
Well, I mean, there's stuff that was in the trailers that got cut from the movie.
Yeah, I did notice that
and
too.
like the shot of Paul Rudd and the rest of the family outside.
Yeah,
that's the reason why I'm hoping that we get something extended.
Yeah.
Why do you keep cutting the best parts of the movie when it was in the trailer? Come on, guys.
I mean, it's not like that's a new thing. Like, remember in the first trailer to Infinity War, where it's that scene in Wakanda. In the very first trailer to Infinity War, there's that shot of Captain America in the forefront. He's running, and Hulk is behind him.
Yeah.
Obviously, that didn't happen in the movie with the way things,
Well, that was for spoilers and stuff.
Yeah, but that was, could we possibly just compare that to just what they did in this movie, maybe to just miss as a misdirect? Because I'm not sure.
No, I want to say that it's a misdirect. If I had to give a genuine guess about why there was stuff that was cut from the trailers in between that and the final product, if I had to give a guess about it, it's they had to do reshoots for this movie 4 months ago, something like that.
Yes,
that could be a major part.
Yeah, they had to do that then. So maybe because they did the reshoots, they had to restructure things, and by the point that they had done all that, this trailer was mostly done. So that would be my best guess about it. I would hope that we get like just even if it's an additional 10 minutes in the third act, even if it's just that, I think that would help it a little bit better. I think that would help stay some of the criticisms about the pacing.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the theatrical cut of BVS, where it did have that thing where it's like, okay, we're in this previous scene we were somewhere else worrying about this one thing, and in this scene, we're completely sidetracking. I don't like editing like that. Sometimes it works, like with, say, Infinity War. I think uses that to its benefit, to where like where the story cuts around to these different sets of characters, with different things going on. Yes, but it all feels like it's leading to somewhere by the end. Like it's leading to somewhere that feels like it was building up to that the entire time. With this, it didn't really feel like that to me.
I feel like there wasn't enough of ghost busting.
Well,
that was
I disagree. I think there was enough, plenty of like ghost, stuff going on. Like I one of the things I really did like about this movie was the new ghost that it introduces. I like that.
The sewer dragon.
Yeah. And I feel like, is it safe to go into? Do you think it's safe to go into spoilers now?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and say spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, just stop watching right now. Go see the movie and then come back and finish everything out.
Yep. Yeah. So 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Yeah. So the ghost that the new ghost that they introduced, I really liked. Was the one of them was the possessor.
Yeah.
I really like that idea of just this one little ghost going into all these other inanimate objects. Like the vacuum cleaner, or the coolest part when it goes into the lion statue.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something I've always wanted to see as a kid, you know, because the opening shot of the original is on the library of that lion statue. I feel like that's always something that I've wanted to see. Like, is that lion statue going to come to life at some point?
Yeah.
So I really like that. Of course, the Stay Puft, the little Stay Puft Marshmallow men,
The
men
mini
are
puffs.
back.
Yeah.
They're not really a big part of this, like at all. They're just kind of there.
Yeah, they're like in the background and stuff.
It's iconography.
They're
I
just
like
there. They're just there because they're adorable to look at.
yeah, they're pretty much the this guy. Or,
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
they're selling toys was probably its purpose. So, but yeah, I like the Possessor Ghost. I did like the villain of the movie in concept. I liked the Garaka thing. And I feel like it did look intimidating at several moments.
Oh yeah.
The opening scene, I got a kick out of. I liked how it set the tone of the film. You know, going back into the past, 1905 or something like that, or might have been 1904.
Yeah, it was around there.
It goes back to the firehouse with these firefighters going into this building, and they find a room just full of like frozen bodies, and they find the orb that has the Garaka demon. I think the setup was there for this demon ghost thing. I just feel like they didn't really use it as much as I wanted to, because in the trailers you see that, you know, what all the trailers are really selling is that all of New York freezes in that giant ice storm thing. That's like the thing that the trailers are pretty much all focusing on. But that really isn't the way that the trailers sell it. It's like that's like, you know, the kickoff to like what happens in the movie. But
yeah, like it happens like midway,
basically
maybe.
just the climax. And I feel like that was probably a wasted opportunity that they could have done more with.
Well, I would say, see, this is where this is the point where I want to start defending it, because I understand, like I see that entire thing is kind of like a misrepresentation of what the movie is.
Right.
Yeah.
But where I'm coming from is Gozer was a huge god in the first movie.
Yeah.
And I would say that this movie is more akin to the first Ghostbusters than Afterlife was. Because a lot of people said that Afterlife was kind of a copy because it had the same kind of ending villain, had the same kind of ending premise.
But I feel like in Afterlife, you know, it made enough sense for what happens in the climax, where it brings back all four of the Ghostbusters in a, you know, a certain way, with, you know, the ghost of Egon helping out the living three members. And I mean, regardless of what you think about how they used CGI to resurrect Harold Ramis, I feel like for me it was effective, and it was, at least in my opinion, I think it was a nice tribute to.
Well, it was his family and friends and everybody, they fully signed off on everything,
Yeah. So
every step of the progress of bringing Egon back in Afterlife.
So if I didn't really know that, so that is cool. And,
Yeah.
It's so I don't really get the outrage over, you know, the CG, because honestly the CG is incredible for what they did in resurrecting Egon.
I'll say sorry,
You're good.
I would recommend going on to Adam Savage's Tested channel on YouTube. There's an entire video where Adam sits down with Jason Reitman, because they're pretty good friends, and they did a whole bunch of production videos for that one. They did it for Frozen Empire.
Nice.
But there is one video completely dedicated to bringing Egon back, and they go into depth a lot about it. And basically what they did about it was they when they were starting the process of doing it, the way that they went about it was they would create a CGI model of Harold and match it up to scenes in Ghostbusters 1. And so they kept editing and editing and editing until it looked identical. Like you couldn't tell which was the original, which was the one that had the CGI version of him.
Right.
And then they would age him 10 years. And they kept doing that until they got to the point in Afterlife. That's the reason why it looks so good. I still recommend watching the video. It's amazing hearing them talk about it. Yeah, it's Adam Savage. Adam Savage is Tested. That's what the channel is called.
Nice.
He has an entire playlist devoted to Ghostbusters. It's amazing. I fully recommend it.
That's cool.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say too, there's one thing about the beginning of the film that actually really did bother me. In the beginning, when they were doing the ghost busting, and Phoebe actually was going to get the ghost, the mother told her, "No, you don't dare get out. Stay in the car."
Did you not? Yeah. Did you not see what she?
Did you not see what she did in the
in the
first one? Like
yeah.
she bust the ghost. Like, come on, Mom. Why do you have to be so strict now? Like,
it does seem like
I don't like that.
It is. She is way more likely to get hit going through New York than she was in Somerville, Oklahoma.
I get that.
So like, I'll defend it to that degree, but it's like she also didn't have an issue in the afterlife when she was doing
did
it.
the same thing with that ejector or that seat thingy.
Yeah, the gunner. Yeah.
Yeah, the gunner seat in Afterlife. So to me, I didn't really understand. Yeah, that did kind of bother me too.
yeah.
Hey, I did good, didn't I?
Yeah.
But the thing that I was saying comparing Frozen Empire to Ghostbusters 1 is the pacing of it all. I think the thing that keeps Frozen Empire from being almost identical to the pacing and story beats that the first one had is the fact that we had multiple storylines going in this one.
Yeah.
In the first one, I'll say this as a general statement: the first two movies, the main character of the movies aren't the Ghostbusters. It's Peter and Dana.
Yeah.
Those are the main characters of the first two movies, just as in Afterlife and in Frozen Empire, Phoebe's the main character.
Yeah.
Every single storyline is touched by those two leading actors in those two separate movies. It's there in Frozen Empire. Phoebe crosses every single storyline. She touches everything. So she's going with the original team as soon as she's kicked off the original team, base team. Once she's kicked out of the base team, she joins up with Ray, and as soon as the trouble comes in where Peck is like, okay, I'm completely disbanding the Ghostbusters, I've been waiting 40 years to do this, blah, 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 which I'll defend that too, because, I mean, it makes sense. I feel like this was the most in-universe dependent Ghostbusters movie we've got.
Yeah.
Where it had a lot of storytelling just by people being there. Like the fact that Ray had been completely banned from the library. They brought back the original library director for that. Like it's just they had a lot of storytelling like that, and just as Phoebe goes throughout the entire movie, like it's showing her struggle and it's building that up, and like I understand the criticism of it's focusing more on her relationship than the Ghostbusters, but it's always kind of been like that.
Yeah, but I think I respect that. I feel like I get that Phoebe is the main character of this film.
Yeah.
But I also feel like she's more out of character than she was in the first film, because in this one she seems more like seems more angsty, and
because she's a teen.
I understand that. I do. I just feel like the level of like resentment she has for Paul Rudd's character and her mom is a little bit more. Is not. I didn't really quite feel it in this movie as much as I wanted to, and that kind of leads into this new character that this movie introduces, which is this ghost character that Phoebe comes. And this was really messy to me, and how they set this up. It just the introduction of that character really did not make much sense to me, and how they did it, because Phoebe goes at night to a park to play chess, and at first I'm like, is she playing chess with Egon? Because I feel like but Egon, they pretty much established, went off to rest in peace, and that kind of storyline was over. But no, it cuts to this new character,
Melody.
Melanie.
Melody.
Melody.
Yeah.
And I feel like the movie doesn't do a great job of, establishing whether she knew that, because obviously in the movie she just meets this character for the first time, but the scene doesn't really do a great job of, establishing information like, does she know this ghost, previously, or why has she been doing this, this chess thing?
Oh my gosh. I did not think about that.
Yeah, it's kind
sorry.
of it leads to that problem of this movie feeling
No
rushed.
backstory. No, guys.
It feels very sloppy.
Well, okay, so the way that I took it, so when she sat down to play by herself, she didn't think that anybody or anything was going to be there.
True.
So when the chess pieces started moving by themselves, she thought that she was playing with Egon again. Yes, she saw Egon take off, but she didn't know if that was the end of it. I think she was hopeful because in Afterlife, I think she viewed Egon as being the only person that would understand her. That's one of the things that she fights with her mom about, is how her mom doesn't fully understand her. Her dad didn't understand her.
Right.
Mr. Gruberson is really like the only person to fully accept the fact that she's fucking weird. Aside from podcast.
Well, yeah.
But he's the only one. So in this movie, they kind of build off of that. I think it's the fact that, like, yes, she has a resentment towards Gruberson, and I'll get back to the testing in a second. She does have a resentment for Gruberson, and part of the resentment for Gruberson, I think, is the fact that he's taking place of her dad and trying to kind of override that a little bit. And she probably doesn't want that. And then she's just always had that kind of thing where her mom doesn't understand her, and now that she's doing this thing that she's really good at, that she's really passionate about, her mom's kind of, trying to keep her from doing it. And it still plays into the fact that she's a teenager. But for the chess scene, she thought that she was playing with Egon, only to end up not being Egon. And no, she didn't know the character. She like she said, it's not the first time she's seen a ghost. So she was like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't know you, but all right, you play chess well.
I feel like it happened.
That's the one thing I actually love about that main character, is that she's not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing about
I
the main
understand
character.
that. It happens so quickly, like in the scene. Like
Oh, I
everything
know.
is like set up so fast, where like you can't really. I never really got this sense. Like I never really got to follow it. Where I feel like I was learning things. And I think the editing really didn't help that scene either, because everything is set up so quickly that you don't really get the chance to like follow it properly. Like, and in terms of the character of Melody in the film, I feel like, much like some of the other ideas in the film, I feel like it was a good. I think it was a good idea for the character of Phoebe. And that she maybe is starting to relate more to the ghosts and her actual family, and I feel like that's an interesting storyline. But I don't feel like it was given enough time, and I feel like I didn't really get to understand the character of Melody that well, because in the next couple scenes with her, she's like getting communicated with this Garaka demon thing to like betray her, and it just happened so quickly where I was having trouble following it.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I didn't really. Why did it go to her? Maybe it was because she was
They're both
becoming
teens.
Maybe it was because she was already becoming attached to the character of Phoebe, and that's maybe why the Garaka thing told her to do that. It just everything is just, it feels like it just comes off as rushed to me, and I was having a lot of trouble during this movie following what was happening, because it was just happening so quickly, and I am really curious how much of this was left on the cutting room floor at this point.
Well, yeah, that's why I think that we're probably going to get an extended edition, because I do think that there's stuff that should be drawn out throughout the entire movie, but especially the third act. It's just I can agree with that. I think that the initial storylines at least were a bit rushed. They went to rush in and establish things, so I can agree with that. I just think that it was Garaka was taking advantage of Melody by preying on the fact that she wanted to be with her family again. I think that it tied into the fact that Phoebe didn't feel exactly what's the word I'm looking for. She didn't fully feel part of her family, I guess.
Yeah.
Like she had the name and she was super accepting of that. It's just she didn't feel like she was part of the family business, even though she really wanted to, and that it's for obvious reasons when you watch the movie. I actually want to talk about the third act, because I think everything leading up to that. Again, in the first movie, it's you don't see the big bad until the third act.
Yeah,
Like they build it up a bit, and I think that they do a really good job about building up
Yeah.
the big bad in this one.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely.
The build up to Grok, I think, was fine. I just feel like maybe something that would have helped my investment in the character of Melody was maybe a flashback, showing her family, because I didn't really feel for her when she talked about her family, or the diner thing. I just felt like I was like I said, I was having trouble following everything, and I don't think that was just me. I feel like that was a problem with the pacing and the editing and the writing. I just felt like it wasn't giving me enough information to fully care about the characters.
I would say that about Melody. So
Yeah.
I can't agree with that. Yeah.
And I didn't realize who that actress was at first, and this is someone who I haven't seen in a few years. I think she played a character in Doctor Sleep. I think it was the character of, I forget her name, but it was the character that Rose the Hat goes to in Doctor Sleep, and it because she has the power to push people, or that's what the movie the Doctor Sleep movie calls her character as a people pusher, because she has the power to push people to do things.
Yeah.
And I think her performance was fine. I was in both movies, Doctor Sleep and this, I was distracted because she looks like she could play Brie Larson's sister.
I can see that.
She does look like Brie Larson, doesn't she?
Well, like one of the initial thoughts that I had was Chloe Grace Moretz, and then I was
I
like,
didn't
oh
really
well,
think of
she's
her.
well. I just like that was one of the initial thoughts that I had. I was like, no, I was like she would seem too old if that was her.
Yeah.
And
how
as-
old is Chloe Grace Moretz? She's in her 30s.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actress name you're talking about, and I hope I pronounced her middle name right. Emily Owen Wind is her
Right.
name.
Yeah, I think it's Alan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Owen.
she was in the babysitter movies, and of course Doctor Sleep, and also in the.
Babysitter movie.
She was in Lights Out. Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh, nice.
Are you talking about the babysitter movies with what's her name? The chick from Samara Weaving.
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
I only saw the first one. I didn't
Yeah,
see
same.
the second one.
Yeah, and
I didn't think the first one.
and
was
she
that
was in
great.
the HBO Max teen drama series of Gossip Girl. So she
What
was.
did you say, Matthew? 27.
Oh,
I thought she was
wow.
older. Oh wow.
Oh,
Okay,
I
okay.
gotcha.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, I thought the Melody character, she didn't do too bad, but I definitely would have liked to see more of her backstory a little bit more, maybe. Maybe if they actually do the extended edition, maybe we could get backstory to that. Because
Yeah, I'm hoping that too.
I didn't think about that. That I felt like they're missing scenes. I did not think about that.
Well, I mean, chances are she could appear in the tie-in comic that they're releasing.
True.
Because it's supposed to bridge the gap between Afterlife and Frozen Empire,
Oh, okay.
which Frozen Empire takes place 3 years after.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So she could appear in that, like probably towards the end, where like it's Garaka's initial like, "Hey, I need you to do something for me."
Because I feel like the movie is implying connections that I don't think are actually happening, and that's what kind of confused me. Is I was confused. What's the connection between Garaka and Melody? What's
I mean,
in the movie does. The movie goes into the connection between Kumail Nanjiani's character and the Garaka thing. Kumail Nanjiani turns out to be what's called the Fire Master.
Yeah, Fire Master Nadine.
Probably,
Yeah.
which is probably just a spin on the Keymaster and Gatekeeper thing.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but
I mean, it's basically the same premise. This chosen person or chosen family that's carries on this title that is tied to possibly raising this evil demon or ghost, or defeating the demon or ghost. So I feel like that's what they were trying to go for with that character.
I mean, I can see that.
That's what it felt like to me. And I didn't really have a problem with Kumail Nanjiani's character in the film. I think he was used fairly well compared to a lot of the other characters. I feel like he did get a fairly satisfying arc, in defeating Graka in the third act. I do feel like, I mean, can we talk about blinking so hard right now? Sorry, my sinuses are acting up, and that's kind of like screwing with my head. I really didn't. Why was Bill in this movie? Bill barely did any goddamn thing in this.
Well,
in this
I mean,
film at all.
Bill
he's
Murray?
Yeah,
he's
Bill Murray was.
You know what's funny? I was reading a Facebook post, and the reviewer said he sounded drunk.
I don't know.
That's what the reviewer said.
He only had like a scene in the second act, and I get it. He's one of the most popular members of the team, but I mean, he didn't really do much, and he was pretty much just there to throw out one-liners, and even the one-liners I didn't think were that great. It felt lazy how they used Bill Murray in the movie, basically as strictly the comic relief and not much more. Ernie Hudson, they gave him that new paranormal center thing, which would be interesting, but I feel like that deserved another movie to go into that, instead of just shoving it into this movie, which I feel like is already stuffed way too much.
Well, I actually thought that worked really well.
Okay.
I've played the Spirits Unleashed game, and
I played the Ghostbusters the video game, which I love.
It's great.
A lot of people love that game. I heard good things about it.
It's awesome.
Spirits Unleashed is worth the play. I'll say that, especially with the fact that think that it's selling for like $20. I think that I think it's worth it. As somebody who really enjoys Ghostbusters, I gear up every time that I play the game. It's telling actually a lot more about how Ernie's starting the Ghostbusters back up.
Yeah.
And about how they're opening business, how they're actively doing business, and all that kind of stuff. That was one of the things that I missed out, is because there were characters in that game that didn't make any appearance whatsoever in this movie. And if they made an appearance, it was in the background. I was a little bummed out about that.
Do you think maybe that would have helped this movie more if it was characters that were in the video game, possibly?
Well, I think that if we would have at least gotten like tiny little tie-in pieces.
Maybe just because they were somewhat established in,
Yeah,
the
well, there's a whole story thing going on in Spirits Unleashed too, and like Ray's like, oh yeah, my buddy Podcast is coming down for the summer, and the Spengler family is coming here, and blah 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 blah, and it like ties in, it helps bridge the gap as well, and I just feel like we could have gotten those characters a little bit more. I'll have to rewatch it. I'll have to see if they are in the background at the other base, because I'm sure that if they are in the movie, that's where they are.
And I feel like that blonde guy, I forget his name.
James Acaster is the actor's name. Hold on. Penfield was his last name.
Yeah,
the character's name.
I feel like that character didn't really need to be there either. Or
I liked it.
I liked him, but I feel like this is just me as the screenwriter talking here. Like, I'm always about screenwriting. To me is always about economics, because it's always, to me, if you can combine two characters into one character in a way that doesn't diminish like what they are on their own, I feel like you should do that. And I feel like they should have done that. They should just combine, take out that Penfield character and just give those story beats to Winston or one of the other characters. I feel like you didn't need just that one character to do what he did. I feel like that I can say that a lot about a lot of the characters in this film. I feel like some of them could have been taken out entirely, or they could have just been combined with the other more defined characters to make it, I think it would have helped it flow more personally. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I liked it because I feel like he was more the head of R&D. Like he had his own special division at the base.
I get that too.
I will say though, I think that a lot of the like on-site stuff at the firehouse, that should have been Phoebe. Mm-hmm. That is Phoebe's field. That was her like one thing in Afterlife that she was really fucking good at. was she was the person who worked on the tech.
Yeah.
And like, granted, she is one of the main reasons why they defeated Garaka.
Yeah.
It's the fact that she
exactly.
was like, oh well, you said that brass works too, right? Well, let me dip
didn't
parts
really
of my
understand-
proton pack in that.
I must have checked out that point. What did the brass have to do with defeating?
So the orb was made of copper.
Yeah.
So when they were making those kinds of
Oh.
prisons back then, they were making them out
Okay.
of copper and brass.
That makes
They
sense.
didn't have
Okay.
any more copper, as Ray said, because they got stripped in the 90s. So
right,
Phoebe
right.
was like, well, we got plenty of brass laying around. That should work, right? And it was actually kind of an issue where I was like, oh, okay, I shouldn't have watched that one Adam Savage video, because they go into the effects of the proton packs and stuff like that, and they talk about Phoebe's pack, and they're like, yeah, no, so normally they have these red lights that come out of the tip of the neutron one, and all this other stuff. Well, Phoebe's pack sparks as the cyclotron goes around, and then it shoots out green energy and stuff like that. So we had to recolor it. I was like, oh man, that's interesting. I wonder what that's gonna be for. So as soon as she's like, well, brass works too, right? I was like, fuck. I was like, I know exactly what they're doing.
And the thing that I feel like the last thing I'd like to get into, one of the things that really did bother me about this movie was because the thing that the movie kind of establishes, or like in the first act, is the ghost containment unit is getting full to the point where it's about to pretty much, collapse, and all these ghosts are possibly going to get out, and that's ultimately what does happen in that is ultimately what happens in the third act, is that Graka unleashes all the ghosts that have been contained in that unit for 30 years, or maybe
40,
40,
yeah.
40 years. So that should be a big deal. And
Yeah, it will be.
I feel like the movie didn't do that great a job of, really establish, or, it didn't do a great job of conveying that idea that, holy shit, all these ghosts, that all of our work that we've done in the past 40 years of capturing these ghosts might be undone, and we're going to have to do something about it. But the movie treats it like it was just Graka they had to deal with, and they capture Graka, but all these ghosts are just out in the world now. And I feel like, and the one part when they finally capture him, and it's the part
They
where,
like invert the containment unit.
where Winston goes like, when the light's green, the world is clean, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like, you guys realize all these ghosts are out now, and you're gonna have to do all this shit probably all over again. And I feel like the movie didn't do. I feel like they should have, embellished the fact, or stewed in the fact for at least a moment or two, where, and it might have just been, set up for a sequel. And I feel like it would have been smart set up for the third one if they do it, where it's like, oh shit, this is a huge problem. But the ending of the movie doesn't treat it like it's that big of a problem.
Well,
And I had a big problem with that.
Well, I think that this is something that ties back into the base, and it's one of the things that they kind of established early on, where Phoebe's like, well, why don't we build a bigger containment unit?
Yeah.
And Penfield's like, what do you mean? We did. And so, like, when they go to the base, they show, like, 16 individual containment unit hatches, and inside each of these hatches are 6 trap drops. So I think that what it's going to be is the way that they were going about it. They were going to be like, oh yeah, okay. So from now on, you're going to be bringing these traps from the firehouse to the base until we can empty out yours.
Right.
I think that's what it was. They didn't really say that, but that's kind of the logic that I applied
feel
to
like
it.
They should have said it, because
yes, I agree.
It gives the audience that moment where they realize, oh shit, now we're gonna have to deal with this problem. But the movie just treats it like it's some major victory, and it is, but there's also that cost to where now you're gonna have to do. I mean, they might have to travel, across almost the world instead of just the city to get all these ghosts back in. And one thing, the library ghost thing, first of all, I think it was just a cheap sight gag, just there for nostalgia. But I mean, I understand that maybe Ray wasn't allowed back in the library, but are you telling me that in the 40 years that these guys have been doing this, they didn't go back to the library
See,
to get
exactly.
that fucking ghost? Are you kidding me?
That was my takeaway from it.
That pissed me off.
I was like, you have to be fucking kidding me.
Like,
the
why-
first fucking ghost to scare you off and you didn't go back and get her?
What the hell? That made no sense to me at all.
Well, to
really
be fair,
bothered me.
they didn't do that until the 2009 video game, which
Yeah.
took place in the 90s. They were like, yeah, no, we just never came back. We got so
good
busy.
Lord, wow.
So I was like, when we got to that point in the movie, I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You still didn't do it in this universe?
And the people in the audience did laugh, in the screening we were in, but I was just sitting there like, that's dumb. Like,
Well, I gave it a
just
chuckle, but
I mean, to me, it wasn't that funny to begin with, but it was like,
I saw it. I was
that
like,
just-
I understand
that
that reference.
that just doesn't really make any sense. Like when
Contextually.
when you really think about it,
Mm.
like this ghost is probably pretty fucking dangerous. Why would you not? Why
Well-
would you not go back to get that thing?
No, actually, one of the things, and this is kind of the canon before 2016, before Afterlife. There was a whole thing where the librarian is actually really passive.
Yeah,
Like, it's not aggressive like that. I think the only reason why it was aggressive toward Ray was because she recognized Ray. I think that's it. It's literally just like the librarian gets like interrupted and too much noise, stuff like that. Takes her job really serious. There's I recommend reading the IDW comics. It just gives a little extra life to the characters. They go into a bunch of the ghosts that you see in the movies.
yeah.
And they have these like confidential files from the desk of Walter Peck,
Mhm.
and where they talk about it. And the librarian ghost actually has one of them. I would fully recommend reading those comics. I think they're amazing.
I do want to get to one more thing too. There is a after credit scene, but it was only 30 seconds.
It was just a comedic thing.
It's a setup.
Is it really a
Yeah,
setup? though?
it is.
Like,
Gil Keenan said it.
what's it setting up? It just seemed
The-
like it was a jokey scene with the Stay Puft.
I think that
Guys.
what they're setting up is the Stay Puffs are going to start causing havoc across the nation, and that's going to be one of the next projects. Is
I'd be on board with
probably
that.
a countrywide, at least, expansion for the Ghostbusters company, because another Ghostbusters game that came out recently was Rise of the Ghost Lord.
I
Which-
didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, it's a VR game.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's
I
not
need to play
canon
more
to the
VR.
universe.
I have a headset. I just don't really use it. I don't know why.
Well, I recommend it. It looks amazing.
Mhm.
In the game, which takes place outside the storyline, like it's not canon.
Okay.
But basically, the Ghostbusters franchise expands to San Francisco, and so I think that's and I think that's what the Mini Puffed project will be, is an expansion of it, and that's kind of something that the video game from 2009 also served as, was because the rookie ended up making his own operation base in Chicago, where he was the only dude in Chicago doing it.
Right.
It's I think that's what that is. Gil Keenan said that there's more story to be told with those mini puffs and what they're doing from that post-credit scene. Gil Keenan also said that they're going to try to tell more stories with the Spengler family, because this isn't where it ends. They're going to expand on that. Honestly, I could see those being the same project, but I don't see how they would be able to tell those two kinds of stories, considering the fact
Not
that
in
Mini
one-
Puffs have
not in
such a
one movie.
head
I
start.
don't-
Yeah.
Not in one movie.
Yeah.
Like
Although
I feel like
although
that was the problem with this movie. They just tried
although
to tell
I
too
actually
many
thought
stories.
I actually thought the credit scene was really funny. But I hope we get more of that when the third
Yeah.
one comes out, which I'm pretty sure they're making a third one, depending on the box office.
Yeah, that's what
It's-
Gil Keenan
yeah,
said.
It's the most divisive Ghostbusters movie, actually.
Aside from, I mean, I know critics mostly like the 2016 one. Doesn't it have like a 72 on Rotten
Yeah,
Tomatoes?
but the
Which,
audience rate had a
honestly,
46%.
when that happened,
but...
like it honestly baffled the shit out of me. I was like, wow. But I don't know. Maybe I'll like it. Because I haven't seen it. And I tried to stay away from it for so long. I just hope, because if was Afterlife written by a different set of writers than
No.
this one?
No, it was
So-
both Jason Reitman and Gil Keenan.
So the this movie and Afterlife were by the same writing team.
Yeah, so Jason and Gil basically just traded the director seat. That's basically all it was.
So
it's by this.
Gil also
both
wrote,
of them did it.
Gil wrote Afterlife.
I believe so. Yeah. Here,
Okay.
I can double check really fast. I know that he was an executive producer on it. Here, let me see.
And I know the director of Afterlife. I know he wrote the script for Frozen Empire.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Gil Keenan also wrote Afterlife.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think it. I was about to say it felt like a problem that it was written by both this and Afterlife. They were written by different people, but
No, it's the same
I guess
people.
that's not the problem. I just feel like more focus was probably needed to make this feel more flowing. And I feel like a lot of this movie, a lot of the storylines could have been told in maybe two other movies or two distinct movies, and I feel like that could have helped the problem more. So for me, it did feel like it did. While I was watching this movie, it did remind me of how I felt when I first watched stuff like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. Both, all Sony movies, and Sony tends to usually not that this problem is strictly tied with Sony, because it's not. It's a Hollywood issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Overall. But it did remind me of that, which is like there's pieces here that work. I just feel like they don't work together all that well. So yeah, I think that I've said all the things I wanted to get into spoilers with.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my thoughts on Frozen Empire.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one positive thing, which is better than Madam Web.
That is true. That is true.
It's a better movie, so Sony, you redeem
good thing
yourself
about-
a little bit.
good
If
thing
Paul were here, he'd be telling you shut the hell up.
Well, actually, I was about to say I think this year has it easy, because I don't think anything will top #1 worst movie of the year lists like Madam Web. But apparently, and I checked the calendar for this coming week, because not only is Godzilla X Kong coming out this week, Winnie the Pooh 2 also comes out this week. So that might beat out Madam Web for #1 worst movie of the year. I mean,
I'm not even gonna watch that. Oh,
I will.
I might have to go see that at the theater, because I saw that fucking trailer in front of Dune Part 2 in Dolby in the same theater that we saw this movie in.
I know.
I saw the trailer
Same
for
one.
Winnie the Two.
Uh-huh.
Winnie the Two.
Yeah,
Winnie
I
the
was
Pooh
thinking about
2.
that the entire time.
I was like, you're really gonna make me see this in the theater, aren't you?
Don't forget about Pooh Ventures next year.
Yeah,
I
the
haven't even
Poohniverse.
gotten into that. We'll probably have to get into that.
We'll
tonight.
get
It'll be part of the news.
In a different-
Yeah, it's a new segment.
In a different
and I'm gonna
video.
I'm gonna do a full rant on it. So be entertained, people. So anyway, so pretty much mixed feelings. Dylan and I enjoy it. The movie. Him not so
Dylan
much.
Dylan's.
Well, I didn't get to give my final thoughts.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Yeah.
No, I just it was because we only got to talk a little bit about the third act, and I'm not going to go all in because this is running a little long.
Yeah. I think we've
Didn't
got.
mean- didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry
I think
about
we've
that.
gone through like the main, like, the big spoiler.
Yeah. I just I like how they ended with the third act, because they were treating again, the comparison between this one and Ghostbusters 1, it's the same kind of pacing where we saw like the big bad in the third act, and that was it. Like, it was all that build up to that point. And I think that it really worked with this. I just wish that the Frozen scenes would have been a little more drawn out.
Yeah.
Because I think the fact that like everything happened, that the fact that they were there when it fucking happened,
Mhm.
and they didn't fucking do shit.
Yeah.
They didn't go to stop anything. They didn't try to go out and be like, oh man, we need to get as many in, and then be like, oh fuck, like they're gonna all start coming after us. I think that if we would have gotten that, I would be completely satisfied with the third act.
Right.
That's really the biggest drawback for me. Again, I understand the pacing issues. I understand the editing issues. I completely get that. It all works for me really well. One of the big descriptors that they had for this movie, which they had been saying since they started filming was the fact that it felt very real Ghostbusters like it felt just like a live
Yeah, I can
action
see that.
episode of it.
I can see
And I think that was the perfect description for this movie. Because the pacing of it all was about the same. Yeah, granted, you normally have like the main ghost of the episode throughout, but they kept cutting to the orb. They kept cutting to what how Garaka was affecting other ghosts, and how it was affecting the streets of New York. And I just think that it worked really well. I understand how like it feels a little misrepresented in the trailers, and like I wish that it weren't that way.
I mean,
But
trailers do that like sometimes on their own. For even movies I really like, they often misrepresent the movies. So maybe that's mainly a problem with the trailer, how it represented it. But and I'm glad because a lot of the fans, because this movie also, like a lot of movies, has a pretty big Rotten Tomatoes divide between critics and audiences.
Yeah, critics debuted at 44%. I believe that audience debuted at 86.
Which,
if I'm right,
which is
So
cool.
like that.
Which is cool, and
Yeah.
that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
I don't hate the movie. I just feel like a lot of it is wasted potential, and I feel like it should have been. It was way messier and more sloppy than it should have been in terms of like how it told the story and how it represented certain characters. Because Finn Wolfhard's character does nothing in this fucking movie.
Yeah, no, he was definitely on the back burner for the most part. He was the main one interacting with Slimer, which I was super happy with the amount of Slimer content that we got.
Really get a big we don't really get a big payoff with that either. Like with
No.
the whole Slimer thing.
Well, again, like I'm hoping that we get something else with that. Like I really do, because we had been waiting 35 years for the return of Slimer in the movies,
And
aside from 2016.
yeah, and I actually did, because Slimer in the movie actually looked great. Because after we watched it, because they're using puppets.
Yeah,
I can tell, and it turns out they did use a lot of the same animatronics for Slimer that they did in the 1984 movie. That's one of the things I actually liked about Afterlife too, because in that scene in Afterlife, there's a scene with Paul Rudd in the grocery store when he sees Stay Puffs, the little Stay Puffs.
That scene is great.
And he sees the demon dog, and I was like, when I saw Afterlife, I was like, I feel like I'm watching a scene from the 80s.
Yeah.
The 1984 one, because they're using puppets.
Yeah.
And I actually like that about these two movies. They do use more, practical effects and puppetry, which is cool. I don't know. I just think the story could have been told better in this one, a lot better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can respect that. Oh.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt your final thought. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I think that's all we have to really say about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
We say go see it. He says that it's not that bad, but it's clearly up to you, all of you.
I'm usually someone who says, even if I have to really hate a movie, unless if it's something like Madam Web, where I just thoroughly was like, I don't think anyone is gonna get anything out of this movie.
Yeah.
But for something like this, I feel like it's something that if you are a Ghostbusters fan, like all of us are, I feel like I would go see it, and
it's worth
it's
it.
something where I would just try to form your own opinion on.
Yes,
I think there's a little bit more divisiveness with this one. So if you've seen Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, tell us what you thought of it in the comments.
Yes.
And we hope you guys enjoyed the review. So,
Absolutely.
Adios.
See you next time. God bless.
See you next.